Yeah, Moscow. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, what's up?
How do you usually record it?
Oh, the one time I've tried in the past, I've just done it through Ableton.
And you fucking nailed it?
Yeah, I mean, it was alright. I think it could have came out clearer, which is why I was questioning the quality of the microphone in the first place. But I think we're good.
We are good, and we're live.
Is this a mic test? Or are you just live now?
We're rolling, bro.
Alright, good shit.
Yo, yo, what up, homies? What up, Richmond? It's your boy, Paddy Stax. For all you people, dope-ass people out there making art or music, creating, living it up, doing what you love, keep doing your damn thing. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, we're in this. Yo, what's up, homies? It's your boy, Paddy Stax.
Yo,
Sitting
what
here
up?
with...
I'm Chris from Hellscape Digital. Most people online know me as Axon.
It's a fucking hellion. We're here in Richmond, Virginia, kicking off this little podcast treat for you. We're all about promoting dope artists and musicians and anyone really just loving what they're doing and want to promote it and want to talk about it and want to get their fucking shit out there and show them how dope the 804 is. So our mission is to give to you guys what we like to see other people getting after it.
Yeah, live and
Richmond.
direct from Richmond, Virginia.
Fucking, you been to any shows lately, Chris?
What was the last show I went to?
In Richmond?
I saw Anamanaguchi at the Broadberry. That was a good show.
Anamanaguchi. Damn, I've never heard of them. What genre is that?
I would say they're probably better classified as a rock band, but they got their name in the foothold or in the chiptune genre. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't. That's interesting.
That's like very like synthesizer heavy, very like video gamey inspired music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. They I
It's
would
a
say
vibe.
as a band they're best known for writing the soundtrack to the Scott Pilgrim movie that came out in like
Oh, okay.
2010 or 2009.
Wow.
But yeah, I saw them once back at Strange Matter in 2013. That was like one of the first shows I went to when I like had a car and I drove down to Richmond. So
Nice.
it was kind of a full circle experience to go see them again because it was at a much bigger venue and like a much bigger crowd. But I don't know, the sick thing about Anamanaguchi is they just put out an album I think back in December. And that's the first album that they put out in almost 10 years. And so
That's
for
wild.
10 years they've just been touring straight off of the same album.
Oh,
And I actually
man.
bumped into them back in 2015 at Waffle House. They had played
Holy
another
shit.
show at the Broadberry, and I think I was working that night, and so I didn't get to see them. But I just like randomly was stoned and ended up going to Waffle House at like 2 in the morning, and that was
Dude,
after they played their set, and they were there.
I've had some Stone Waffle House experiences before, and one time back in high school, it was senior year, I was with my friend. He was in an a cappella group, dope dude. We were hanging out on the golf course and just like drinking, like doing our thing, you know. And then we went and we drove to Waffle House and we just freestyled the whole way there, and we were just vibing. And like we got to Waffle House, there's some girl dressed like Pocahontas, like there's like a whole Indian feather thing
Was it
going
Halloween?
on. It wasn't. That's the thing.
Was this at jam?
That was just how I think she just liked to dress like that. But no, it was in Richmond. It was on Broad Street.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say we're talking about
Yeah,
the
it was
same
at like
Waffle House.
2:30 in the morning. It
So
was
I was gonna
fun.
say
though.
I don't know what Waffle House you've been to, but the one in Richmond that I have all my memories at, like it's fights at night. There's a armed security guard at the front.
My dad, when he used to play softball back when I was like 8 or 9 years old, went to a Waffle House, and they were there at like 3 in the morning, and someone got shot outside in the parking lot while they were in the Waffle House. And like I know that sounds crazy, like everyone's like, or anyone listening to this who like grew up in an area where there's just gunshots all the time, I just can't even imagine, because in my whole like growing up I lived in such a safe little suburban bubble that
Where
like
was
there
this
was
Waffle House?
literally no crime whatsoever.
Was this one in Chesterfield?
I think it was
Was it the one on Whole Street?
honestly it was like 10 years ago. I forget which one it was at, but it was
That's the only one I can think of in Chesterfield.
It's
It's
just
the tiny
like-
little one down Whole Street.
it's just like, yeah, I'm blessed that like I grew up to where I didn't have to really be subject to stuff like that, because some people aren't as fortunate.
Yeah, well, funny that you mentioned that, because something that I just downloaded lately.
Funny that you mentioned.
Something that I just downloaded the other day is this app called Neighborhoods. I don't know if you've heard of it. And no, we're not sponsored by this. This is just something I think is really sick. You know, I don't remember if it's Ring or Nest, but like one of those home security systems, they have this app called Neighborhoods, and you don't have to be like a part of their service to download it. And it's just you just like plug in your area code, and you like sort of set a geolocation around like where you consider your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then you just like receive text alerts anytime anyone reports anything, or anytime something's like automatically picked up by the cameras.
Oh wow.
And it's kind of spooky because
sounds super like intense and paranoid and.
Yeah, I mean, I think being a VCU student for 4 years, you kind of get desensitized to the sort of like text message warnings.
Oh wow.
But I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where like I live, I would say, in like probably one of the relatively safer parts of the Fan in Richmond, and
yeah.
I never really hear of any of the same kind of crime going on that I hear like in the other parts of town. And ever since I downloaded that app, I've seen some shit.
Damn, bro.
Like some of the weird shit too, like videos of people just like walking up onto people's porches and just like taking like pictures of something with the flash on at night, and they don't know if it's like a package or if it's like their doormat, but it's sus, and like you watch those videos, it's kind of disturbing.
Dude, that is disturbing. Fuck, man. Well, now, and I was hanging out with my friends the other day, and they were playing Pokemon Go. I was like, shit, that game's still around. I've been sleeping on it for like 3 years, apparently.
Oh,
They've just been going strong. They showed me their Pokedex. They had like, I think like 2,500 different Pokemon in their Pokedex, and they were like, yeah. He's like, asked me what I do in my free time other than rap, of course. He was like fucking asking me that question, and I was like, you know, honestly, a lot of the times I'm just sitting around like super stressed out that I if I don't have direct work that I need to be doing and I'm just like doing nothing, it's hard for me to, you know, get involved in a show or do like even play video games, because I feel like I'm just like procrastinating the work that I know needs to get done, even if I've already like my job, like for instance for editing videos. Once I finish all my videos that I'm editing for the week, I want to work on more personal shit, right? So like, but because I do that all the time, it kind of makes me steer away from it in my free time to do more of the same, like editing at least.
Nah,
you
I
know
mean, trust
I mean?
me, 100% I know what you're saying, because I mean, I grew up playing games. Like, I'm a gamer at heart. Like, usually that's all the time that I could be spending art. I'm just digging around playing video games. But lately, I've been so focused with the clothes, and it's just been like on my mind, top of mind, every single night when I get home from work, that like last night when I finished the last thing on the machine and I finally called it done, I was just sitting there. I was about to open up a game and I didn't even know what to play, and I was just like, damn, like, I don't even want to get my foot into anything at this current moment, because I know that it's just going to derail me from the next thing.
Because you got to stay focused. You got to stay focused and have patience and perseverance too.
Yeah. And for anyone that is listening that actually knows me, I'm happy that we're doing this podcast, because this really puts a new perspective, I think, on like the work and the level of effort that I think I display online to people that follow me and know that I'm like working on shit all the time. Because I mean, I've been doing it for like 5 years now, and every single year I'm adding something new to my workload and like finding new ways to expand my creativity. But at the end of the day, for as much as I think I'm doing, like, it is a thought that plagues me all the time, is that I'm not doing enough with my time, and that it's a constant struggle. Which, I mean, compared to most people in my life, I am doing a lot more with my free time. But so I know in a lot of ways I need to just sit down and have that discipline and tell myself that it's okay to sit back and enjoy myself. But yeah, like you were saying, you just get in those modes where you're so focused on the work that all of a sudden when you have time to shift gears into something more leisurely, you almost don't even know what to do.
Yeah. Dude, I just want to say, Chris, dude, you're such a hardworking and like intentional artist, and you just put so much of your soul and like of who you are into your work, that like you do it so intentionally and so consistently that like I feel like, I'm just gonna say this right now, I feel like we're both the type of people and artists that, and I'll speak for myself, but like it's gonna be really hard to find someone out there who appreciates the work that you do more than yourself. I'll say that when someone comes to me and they truly have been impacted or inspired or even entertained or any amount of impact that something that I gave out there hit them, it makes the difference. Like, it makes you keep grinding. It makes you not be lazy and put off your work, because you know that you're doing it for someone who's going to take that and be inspired to do something positive or something beneficial to someone else in their life, and it's just going to have a snowball effect. And it's really true. And it's not even talking lofty or theorizing about anything. It's literally like, once you've experienced that this happens and you get the feedback and you know that you're impacting someone's life in a positive way, like, it's just totally, it's an amazing thing. I mean, it makes it so worth everything, and all the time spent not doing those other, like, typical leisure activities that, as a content creator, I feel like I'd be consuming more content, and I'm really not. I mean, I consume way less content, as far as I'm on Instagram a lot, and I do feel like I'm slightly addicted to it.
By the way, anyone that's listening, if you're not listening already, follow my boy Paddy Stax. You're gonna have to spell it out for them.
True. Don't forget the double D's, bitch.
Yeah. So what is it? PADDY
STAX
_.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is the name.
Follow that shit. Run it up. He's got a wide variety of content, but it's always entertaining. His stories are funny as shit.
Yeah, what up, homies? Oh, my homie? Oh, this is the lime tree. Check it. We got fucking limes, bro. We got fucking limes. Like they're fucking dimes. Like we out here in the Wyndham streets committing crimes. But we really not. Holy shit, I'm really blessed, because I haven't heard a single gunshot in the fucking 20 years
Mosca
I've lived
Mule
here.
coming through
Oh
with the
God,
with the recommendation,
The
dude.
promo.
I appreciate that.
No,
Yeah.
but to what you were saying, I mean, yeah, like you definitely have a point. I mean, and I think that's really sort of the interesting balancing act that we as artists always play, is that, you know, the external validation that we seek from people recognizing that we do, and, you know, and being inspired by it, and, you know, making a change in their own lives for the better because of it. It is an intoxicating feeling, and that alone can be the momentum that makes you keep going when you think that you can't do it, or when you're doubting yourself. But, you know, at the same time, like, that sort of external validation only carries you so far, and you really have to find that validation within yourself too. And it's a really weird struggle where, I don't know, I follow a lot of artists online, and I sort of see this thing where they sort of strike, like, their niche, and they see what starts to work for them online after sort of posting things and nothing really takes off. And then they sort of realize, okay, this works, I need to commit to this, and then they limit themselves from posting what they, I guess, truly feel represents them. And I think there's a certain point where that helps, because you are narrowing your focus, but at the same time you start to plateau because people only see you as a service level person that only does one thing. And I think as artists, even like starting this podcast, that's a way to sort of branch out and give a new perspective on the kind of content that we put out online, because yeah, it's weird. I mean, at the end of the day, I'll always tell people that, like, success online doesn't mean anything. Like, we're all chasing it, but at the end of the day, like, if you're not making art for yourself, then no one else is gonna see that and want to be inspired by it or want to follow it.
Dude, that's so true, man.
I think the biggest inspiration, at least me personally, like, when it comes to seeing other people's art online, I don't necessarily look at it and be like, oh shit, like, this is awesome, like, I want to make something like this. It's more like, I look at sort of their energy and their passion that they have towards their own work, and, like, this is me being unafraid to put myself out there and do things that aren't necessarily cool, but
yeah,
I literally see that energy and I resonate with it. And it's sort of one of those things where, you know, being yourself is off-putting to a lot of people. Like, you're never going to please everybody, but at the same time, the people that you do attract, the sort of like tribe that builds around everything that really
those are the only
represents
people you want to attract.
Those are the only people that matter. Those are the people that are actually going to be engaging with your stuff. Those are the people that are actually going to be buying your products. Those are the people that are actually going to be stepping away from their phones and talking about you to other people. Because at the end of the day, like, numbers online are great, but word of mouth is so much more powerful. And, you know, if I had a choice between having 1,000 followers or having 10 people that avidly talked about me when they were out in public and, you know, mingling with their friends, I would take that any day.
Yeah, and Chris, the way that you just said that, was very interesting, but I'm sure you've realized what you said also is because you don't care. You're saying you don't care as much about the numbers. It's more of the quality of the content and the genuine impact that you're making on those few people matter way more than just people who are mindlessly consuming your content and not appreciating it, is what you're saying. But also those 10 people, when they talk to 10 people, you were also thinking about the numbers, I bet, because you were thinking about like, that actually multiplies to end up being more people reach than those 1,000 followers.
Absolutely.
So like you had the numbers game too that, yeah.
You know,
I think...
And that's an interesting point too. And that sort of comes down to, you know, in a world now where people spend money on advertising and you can directly attribute a $sign to how much, like how many numbers or how much engagement you're going to get out of something. I think something that people really look over and undervalue is that real human connection and the idea that making an impact on somebody can lead to more financial gain than any amount of selling to them. Perfect example is with my clothing brand. I mean, I'm going to be dropping things on Sunday, and there's going to be a whole collection that's obviously going to be for sale, but I'm really trying to lay the foundation for my brand where I want every single person that has an interaction with me to be super positive and take something away from it and then want to continue to support me. And so if that means giving things away to people for free or giving out free shipping to people that I'm cool with, I mean, financially, like, I'm willing to take that hit because I know that the genuine joy that that's going to bring to the person that's touched by that is going to carry my brand so much further. And at the end of the day, you know, numbers are awesome, but if that's all you obsess over, that you have nothing to fuel you even getting there in the first place. You know, the quality of the content always comes first. And especially as an artist, I think that's something that artists in particular really get caught up in because we have this idea that we have to be posting something every single week, but if there's anything I want people to look at my art and take away from it is that it's okay to spend 1 month working on an entire drawing and only come back and post it and get half the engagement that you normally would because the algorithm fucks it over or something like that. Well, but at the end of the day, the people that see it and the people that appreciate it are going to be the people that recognize the level of effort that you put into it, and it speaks for itself, I think.
Well, dude, I totally agree. And it is, like, you do feel the push to want to keep putting out content once you get that dopamine rush to the head. You just want more and more and more until you fucking
here's
overdose.
For everyone listening right now, something that
because this is the biggest drug that I deal with is probably food and my phone. Like, those are my drugs. I smoke occasionally. I fucking drink a decent amount, way too much actually a lot of the times, but it's still like managing to get everything that I need to get done for sure. But it's still like my phone is like the most addicted, and like Instagram and fucking porn.
I mean, no, that's true. I mean, people, when they think of addictions, they see it as either drugs or gambling or sex, but really, like, social media is just as much of a, I hate to call it a drug, but as far as like addiction and as far as like frying your dopamine receptors,
it's so, oh my god.
And yeah, I mean,
and it's fun. It's so much fun. Like, I try to have fun with it. Going back to the numbers, I specifically said on my story, like, if you're not true as fuck, unfollow me now. Like, the members of the tribe, shout out all my tribe members. It's your boy Paddy Stax here with Chris Mosca once again. Shout out to you guys, because literally I know all these people personally. Like, every single person that follows me. There might be a few that just recently followed me. That's why I was like, I threw it out there to like let them know, like, if they weren't true as fuck, unfollow me. But shout out to the tribe members. If you're listening to this podcast, keep steezing, keep grinding hard, and have fun. Do what you love. I'm talking specifically now to Danny P, Rick Reynolds, J-Dub, my bro. If you guys want to do a podcast and you think you're some pretty funny cats and have some interesting things to talk about, fucking do it, and don't just talk about it. Literally talk. And then, like, on it, fucking do the podcast, have some fun, post it out there, and I'll fucking make promo videos for you guys. My bro, Jack Willard, he went to Ole Miss, right? And they had this one day where they were fucking being in a fraternity, and they were all fucking, let's dig a hole. Like, they just had this random idea to dig a hole. So they got to the backyard, and they took a bunch of shovels, and they just dug a giant fucking hole in the ground, like for no reason whatsoever. And one of the dudes that was in their fraternity was an audio-visual guy, so he did like an interview with everyone, like, yeah, so why are you digging? And they're like, St. Jude's or like or like what do you say, women's rights, or like, just like random things. And then they were drinking beer, whatever. Anyway, they put it up on YouTube. It got like 10,000 views.
The dig and swig, this shit's not fucking a joke. It's serious shit, man.
This is, you gotta dig if you want to swig. And we're here at the first annual Dig a Hole Day Drink.
We're just really proud of everyone who showed up. It's one of the biggest fundraisers we've ever had. It's actually the first fundraiser we've ever had, but it's also the biggest.
We're here live at the Hole, and we're asking viewers if they would fuck Hulk Hogan's stepdaughter, and no one here has had a convincing answer until Jack Wheeler.
My brother got recognized at the bar he went out to in Richmond as the dig and swig. They called it the dig and swig. The Ole Miss does a dig and swig. And then they thought that like the Snickers Super Bowl commercial was influenced by their dig and swig video, which, like, who fucking knows? I'm sure that they obviously had the ability to find that content on YouTube if they were specifically had an idea about digging a hole. I'm sure they probably did see it, I would think.
No, but that's interesting. And to bring it back to what what we were saying is us as artists, when we talk about legacy, it's interesting that something that you do, like something that brings me peace as an artist, knowing that I'm doing something completely unique and something completely myself, is that even, and I don't want to be one of those people that just is like, oh, like people are going to recognize me when I die, but like it's true, like the work that I do now is going to exist like far beyond my physical form. And
Now I've got
everything I need to breathe easy,
All my
and craft that
homegirls.
will last, its fruits will outlive me.
even if that's never directly attributed to inspiring something else, like somebody somewhere is going to see what I'm doing and be inspired by it, and in some way or shape or form it's going to affect their work, and they're going to go on to taking my ideas and pushing them to some new boundary that I never could. And
Dude,
that's like, if I could sit there and even think about the possibility of that, like, that's sick, that's dope. That's something that brings me like a weird joy.
Dude, it's funny you say that, because the two of the lines you just dropped, you said along the lines of your craft is going to outlive you.
Yeah, I think that's a morbid mentality to want to focus on when you're creating things, but
Yeah, but
like
I talk about death a lot. And
that is something, that's something that I've thought about a lot in my life. And I would say for being 24, almost 25, I definitely stress about mortality way more than I probably should.
Fatality.
And I think that definitely is something that fuels my drive as an artist. But that's not to say that I feel like imprisoned to my art and that's the only way that I'm going to exist as a human beyond what I create. I think it's just one of those things that, like, every single person has their own form of documenting their life, and some people, like, shoot a lot of videos, some people write in diaries or write in journals or write a book about their life.
And
I think I'm just one of those people where I create art for myself, and for me, I can look back on it, and like that is my form of a journal. I can look back and remember the time of my life and the people that were in it, and like the music I was listening to, and I was creating that piece.
Dude,
and,
yes.
It is a weird thing because it's different from a diary, because nobody is ever going to look at my art and see exactly what I saw in it, or like sort of get the same nostalgia brought out of it. But I don't know, if it makes them think about something from their own childhood and brings that nostalgia out of them, like that's all I ever shoot for.
Dude, I'm the same way. Like, I know that at the end of the day, it makes me feel good when I listen to the song that I created, of course, with assistance from my boy Chris Ratterree, who produced fucking From Pits to Bliss, my album that is debuting on St. Paddy's Day of 2020.
Hey, yo, Chris, you better... You ready to cook up some greasy motherfucking shit right now? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Extra greasy. Sunny side up, bitch, I like my eggs runny. Funny guy cracking jokes, yo, in my tummy.
Besides him fucking scratching up those beats and fucking mixing the shit out of that and coming up with some fire ass fucking beats, at the end of the day, when I listen to my song, and I enjoy what I'm hearing so much that I've heard it like hundreds of times already. I know that it doesn't matter what the fuck anybody else thinks about it. It's all about love and my experiences and my struggles. And I say fuck a decent amount, but not because I need to, because I want to. And
and I mean, and we're definitely gonna get deeper.
I say I'm gonna do it a lot in my freestyles. I will say that. My friends rag on me for it. I literally say I'm gonna do it as like while I'm thinking of the next line.
I think there's an actual term for that, but it's a thing in freestyling. Like every rapper has sort of like their filler words that their brain turns to when they're thinking of the next thing to say.
Mine are, I'm gonna do it. Oh my God. Yeah, you know. And there might be another one.
Dude, that honestly, that's
lick my sack. I say that a lot.
That's an entire topic for another podcast. I think is to bring at least one other rapper on here, and we just talk about ad-libs, like what their ad-libs are, which ones they always go towards, and like why.
Would you consider those I'm just thinking ad-libs is when you like do toppings on the pizza, at the end of the track when it's all been recorded.
Sorry, so that's
ad-libs, but we were thinking of like
I'm segueing into a different topic.
Oh, there you go.
You're right. No,
okay.
you are right about that. That's not what you were talking about, but that's what it made me think of.
Yeah.
Is that like that could be an entire topic on its own, is sort of talking about like just the way in a rapper's brain works that they can guarantee that no one else is ever going to write something the same way as them. Yeah, that's something that I sort of.
That's what I've had that satisfaction of.
Yeah,
doing that.
And that's
what
that really goes across all mediums. I mean, even as a visual artist, that's something, especially recently, that I've seen on Twitter that the community has sort of been like up in arms about, is that a lot of smaller artists feel victimized when they see other people sort of copying their style or drawing in a similar way as them, but I think you should see that as an endearing thing, and that
you're an source of inspiration.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, I think if you're in whatever you're doing, if your style is truly unique to yourself and it is a complete reflection of like your inner being, then that is like it's unreplaceable. Like nobody else could create that the same way. So as hard as they try, it's never going to amount to the quality of what you're putting out. And so I just feel like you shouldn't stress over that, you know? If someone is looking at what you're doing and getting inspired by that clearly you're doing something right. And I don't know. I think you're kind of looking at it selfishly if you're putting yourself in a position where you're an artist that wants to put your work out there and you want to share it with other people.
Yeah.
And you're going to get offended when something like that happens.
Dude, yes. And, like, it's crazy how far the support goes when you get it from, like, I have people that really don't know me or haven't known me that long at all that seem to support me a lot more than like friends I've had for like over 12 years. Like,
yeah. And
it's just like, yeah, granted everyone's busy with their lives and no one's paying attention to fucking certain, like, good for you if you're not looking at Instagram every day. Like, bravo. I've deleted it. I've deleted Facebook. I keep coming back because it's fucking addicting, and I think I'm like addicted to like fucking entertaining people, as apparently, because
know what,
it's dopamine, but it's also like I like putting smiles on people's faces. I've always done things to make people laugh.
And it's interesting that you frame it in that context, because that makes me believe that that's not a bad thing at all, because that means that you're addicted to the input, not the output, you know? Like, or I don't know if I'm phrasing that correctly.
Ooh, that's interesting.
You're addicted to the giving and not the receiving, and so naturally the receiving will come with the amount, that the sheer volume of what you're giving.
True.
And I think like
I create more content than I consume.
Yeah, like to put it in simpler terms, if an artist is mad that they're not getting like 100 likes on their posts each time they drop something, you know, if that's the only thing that they're fixated on, and they're fixated on like what's going to get
so
me to that
backwards,
number,
Gary Vee would say that.
Then you're literally attacking it from the opposite angle, because the result in mind is like especially in a world now where people only complain about algorithms, like you can't put your validation in what you consider to be a success in the hands of something that you really have no control over. The only thing you have control over as an artist is your level of output, is what you put into it.
Yeah. And the quality of that output.
So it's just one of those things where, there was a time in my life where I really cared about followers, and I really cared about having a high number, and thinking like that really translated to like social proof of like, oh, you're an established artist, like people care about you. But yeah, and I really realized that like that distorted my entire mentality of like what art even was, or why I was even creating it in the first place. And then it's almost this weird effect where as soon as I put the blinders on and I stop caring about that external validation, and I really seek it within myself and within my own craft, like it really is truly a contagious thing where like people see it, and people that are on that same wavelength as you like connect to it instantly. Like they just see it and they detect it. It's
beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing.
And that's what I'm saying.
I feel like more people might connect with it. They're just not saying anything, and they're afraid to say something, and it's just too deep and too artist, personal and too like feely, touchy.
I mean, I definitely think there's something to say about being young and sort of trying everything, and then like having that life experience to realize eventually like what works and what doesn't for you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I definitely have come to the realization over the years that sort of that consumer culture that we live in with social media, and like people fixated on showboating and like being famous and like having something to show for their success, is entirely just a product of like the world that we live in, and like the mass media that's like fed to us in the form of like
But I think we should be smart enough by now to realize, why are we still like falling for this shit?
Oh yeah, no, and it's not. We're never gonna stop falling for it, because it's literally a part of the culture. If that's the space you want to compete in, then you have to indulge in it to some degree. But I think the point that I'm getting at is that something that I'm just realizing now as I'm sort of approaching 25, and like a lot of people my age are stressing out about like, oh shit, I'm getting older. The thing that I'm starting to realize, like, I used to be that way, and I used to be like, oh shit, like time's running out, like my window to just like be young and do some crazy shit is closing. But now I'm realizing that sort of my mentality around my craft and my creativity, and sort of laying the foundation and only caring about like my tribe and the people that genuinely interact with me, it really makes me not care about any of the numbers, because I realize that I have my entire life ahead of me to like work on building like a real network of people that give a shit about what I do.
And we've already done that. It's just we've just been planting the seeds for the first 25 years.
Yeah, like, I mean, we've been doing it our entire lives.
It takes till we get older for it to actually start to yield fruit. Like, we shouldn't, but we live in a culture that expects it immediately, and that is in part because of the social media that we consume, just the news we consume, just the quickness of everything. It's not even media, it's like food, fast food, and everything is now, and just our whole process, we've sped everything up so quickly that we just can't catch up to it, and it's
no, I know exactly what you're saying, and honestly, like
it's a show. It's a circus show. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Simulation.
It's a fucking Patty Mayo show with the fucking Moscow Mule over here. Fucking did you vibe with that name? I just kind of named you that.
Moscow
I didn't really
Mule?
ask your consent to name you that.
I mean, you can call me that.
That's how nicknames work. You don't make them up yourselves. Well, I made up a couple of mine, I think.
Yeah, call me what you want. I don't care.
One day I'm Paddy Stax, and the next day, or the next minute, I'm P-Seuss and fucking rhyming 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish on your bitch ass.
Yeah, no, but going back to what you were saying,
no. All right, crazy guy.
He's like into the more serious shit.
Anyway,
like, to what you're saying, it's a lot to unpack. It's that sort of decoupling yourself from what you realize, like the facade you've been living in up until now. It's sort of a hard thing to do, and like, for me, it started with my creative process, and it started with me taking a step back from that and realizing that it's okay to take more time on things that I think truly reflect my vision better. But like literally going back to what you're saying about like fast food and like just the other ways that like people waste their time and their bodies, like it started with art for me, but that I would say I'm still literally the beginning of my journey as far as like improving my lifestyle. Like I still eat like shit, I still sleep like shit, I get a lot done, but now it's sort of finding ways to balance that. And I definitely think it's a it's a give and take where
everything is a give and take.
It really, just to give another example from my own life, like last year I was really good about going to the gym, and there was like a 4-month period where I was going like 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and I felt great about it. And I don't remember what led me to stop, but I remember when I first started going to the gym, it was strictly like okay, I'm gonna give it a try thing, because I had tried every other way to stimulate my brain and inspire new ideas that I thought, damn, like, what's the last thing I've tried to actually, like, give myself, like, positive energy? And it was, like, exercising and working out. And, I always made excuses to, like, not have time to go to the gym. But then
just because that's what everyone did and said you needed to do.
But then once I set time to do it, I realized that it made me so much more efficient in my other work, because I had such a clear head, and because that like built up anxiety and like stress was just getting let out, and I was feeling better like physically. It really like informed my creativity so much more than I even expected it would in the beginning. And so that is something that sort of opened my eyes up to the idea, not just with like exercising or like other lifestyle choices, but even just like within art, like if you're an illustrator and you have art block, and a lot of people will tell you that the way to get past that is to just suck it up and keep drawing, and eventually you'll land on something better. But I've noticed that all of my down periods where I felt uninspired, all it took was for me to take a step back from what wasn't working and just try something completely different, whether that's like going on vacation, whether that's like hanging out with a new group of people, going to an event, trying something new, but doing something completely unrelated to art, or even just trying a new art style. And then what I found is that all that stress that I would have over like, I spent all this time doing something else and not focused on anatomy or getting better at perspective or anything related to drawing, I would just come back to it with such a fresh perspective and such better ideas that the mechanical difference of me not practicing that during that time didn't matter at all. It was like I kept my skill and I got better because I was just thinking about it in a higher level.
Nice.
Yeah, hell yeah.
What was the first cartoon you ever drew?
Damn, that's a good question.
If you can recall. And how old were you?
So my oldest drawing that I can think of, my earliest memories of drawing, I would have to say, and that's funny because that's why I always say like video games have always inspired my art. Some of my earliest memories that I can think of drawing, and I had to have been drawing before this because I wouldn't have even thought to do this otherwise, but I just remember playing the original WarioWare on the Game Boy Advance. This had to have been like 2001 or 2002.
Oh, wow.
I was probably,
7.
No, I had to have been younger than that. But that game came out, and in most video games, when there's like a cutscene playing and you pause the game, there's like a screen that comes up, and it's like, exit cutscene or like save game options, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one of those games where when the cutscenes were playing and you pause the game, it would just freeze frame, and so it would just stop what it's doing, and so I would just sit there and I would draw the screenshots of the game, and I made posters out of them, and some of my earliest memories was doing that, and then just like basically setting up a little lemonade stand on my cul-de-sac and selling these posters to my neighbors for like 25 cents each.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I mean, it's funny, like when I think back now,
I remember doing lemonade stands.
Yeah, like when I think now, like what I'm doing with my art and like with my clothes and shit, like I've kind of always been heading that direction my entire life. Like I've always been, I guess, more of an entrepreneur than I've given myself credit for. And it's cool seeing that, like, at the end of the day, like if anyone, you can be inspired visually by the art that I make or like the ideas that I put out, but if there's one idea that I want people to get inspired by, is that like who you were when you were a kid and you had nothing to worry about and no stresses in life, like that is who you always will be.
Dude,
and
that's real
the
shit.
burdens of
Yes.
life and every other outside factor that sort of shapes you into who you become as an adult really shouldn't.
You're like real when
I
you're
mean, it's not
fucking-
fake because you're
Well,
in the
it's
real
nothing-
world and you have to
yeah.
adapt. But yeah,
and if that's who you are, then you're as real as you can be. Like,
I guess there's so many quotes from like Walt Disney and like Dr. Seuss and all that basically talk about how like children are like the most creative creatures on planet Earth because they just have like limitless like creativity, and like it's that lack of information. Like they don't know too much about the world,
dude.
But if it's sort of like if you can find any way to sort of tap into that inner child in anything that you do, and that doesn't even mean doing anything childish. That just means like doing the things that you did as a kid before you were worried about people like bullying you for it. Like that is still like true to you, and that's what's going to make your art succeed, because that's what's going to make you stand out from like what people think is cool.
Dude, yes. And I think that's why I try, like, I feel sometimes uninformed. Like you said, it's that lack of information is what kind of keeps your inner child innocence and, like, creativity intact, and in essence, like, pure nature of who you really are. And I think I've tried harder to focus on that in my life than learning more information about. There's just limitless amounts of information, and it's overwhelming sometimes. And so I'm not saying ignorance is a good thing, but
yeah,
sometimes it can be. I mean, it's like, there's like, why worry and stress and complain and fill the air with negative energy about shit that you're not even really working towards actually doing something about. I mean, I've tried harder to just be, because there's only one you. I mean, I know that's I've been used before. That sounds like cliche, but it's truly real. Just be yourself. Fucking
yeah.
don't
And
let them
that's not to
say
say
you
that
ain't beautiful.
And like, your tastes and like what refines what you consider yourself, like, it's always going to be influenced by other things. But exactly what you're saying, like, 7 billion people on this planet, every single person is completely different. If you're worried about being too similar to someone else, then all you have to do is tap into the things that make you different. And every single person has something that makes them different from someone else. Whether or not they're afraid to be judged by that is a different question.
But more importantly than trying to be different is just tap into your inner self, like you said. Just like, don't make that the priority. It's like, how do I differentiate? Because that's what I hear people talk about all the time, and like, especially with if you're in the film industry or doing video work, everyone's always, I mean, that's what every company does with every single logo and branding, is how can we differentiate ourselves from the competition. And it's like, as the real goals in life, I don't think should be to, I mean, have whatever goals you want to fucking have, but I'm saying, like, differentiating yourself from someone else shouldn't be like the priority. It should just be like,
for sure,
doing what you
And
love.
that's a good point too, because if you were raised, I guess, in a very formal childhood where you do the things that you were expected of you, and that's what makes you happy, then by all means, I definitely think, like, trying your hardest to stand out also, like, becomes obvious to the people around you. And so I think that all loops back to the central point of, like, be yourself no matter what that is. Like, for me, that is embracing the things that makes me different from other people, but also for me, that's embracing the things that I embraced in middle school and high school that, like, I used to get roasted for. Like, I had long hair, like, I used to wear, like, all black, wear, like, metal tees and shit, and now all of that is cool, but I used to get roasted for it every single day, but I just didn't care because it made me happy. I looked in the mirror and I knew that I was who I was. And
dude, that's awesome. And let me tell you, I may or may not have one point been, like, making fun of people too. Like, may or may not. I totally was. I was, like, basically, I was at times, like, in a sense, a bully, more so verbally than anything else. I mean, but, like, then I got bullied too, like, not really, but, like, my friends would, like, but it got to a point where it was, like, if I was getting bullied, it was, like, they were my friends, so it wasn't really bullying, but it still was, like, fucked up. But I was in the group of people that, like, I didn't pursue, like, theater and everything. Like, that was my true self, was, like, I'm an artist, I need to act, I need to do these things. But I also loved sports, and at least I found that, and, like, I was always, like, friends with pretty much everyone in high school but, like, basically, like, I felt like part of me wanted to be like that, like, hey, with all the theater kids, which that like, the theater and the Quidditch and the things like that I did, music, like, I got into that in, like, later in college, and those were the people that I would probably, like, put down in fucking high school, like, sometimes, and then I became, like, I was always, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I was with both groups. Like, I was with everyone.
And that's a very, very, very good point, because I have a lot of young people in my audience, like a lot of people in high school, and I think, like, that is what I try to stress about, like, being true to yourself and embracing the things that make you different and make you weird, potentially, in the eyes of other people. Yeah. Is that when you're in high school, it's nothing but cliques, you know, like it's nothing but people assigning themselves to a certain team and just sticking with those people. And
it was always very exclusive.
It's such a lack of perspective, because at that age, you just think that that's how the rest of the society is, and you don't realize that when you get older, it's like your character and like what you stand for that like determines your relationships with people, not your interests and not what you look like.
Yeah.
And that's just something that like people have.
And we haven't learned in like 100 years or however long it's been.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of, I don't know.
No, like literally, and it's crazy because, you know, not to say that I bullied people, but, you know, I guess if you looked at it from that perspective, like I was a certain way in high school, and so people that weren't like me, obviously I was like, oh, I'm different, I'm better than them. But it's like the script flips so much when you get older and you're in a different environment and you're like at a party in college and you see people that you used to not fuck with in high school, and then you're like, oh shit, like what's up? And you're like, that commonality of like being in high school together is like enough to like spark up a conversation and become friends.
Totally.
And then instantly you put your differences aside and you realize like, wait, why did I ever have this opinion of them in the first place?
Dude, totally. That's so real.
Remember, kids are watching all across the land, so set the right example, create magic with your hands and spread love with your mouth. The ones who miss my message will find another route, but all
Step
paths
off,
lead
homie.
back to love, back to truth. If you want to make a difference, be a voice for the youth.
Like being in a group, we were all group oriented, like as a people, as a human race, like we're very grouped.
Dude, all I can say about
nationalities, country, like everything's grouped. Everything is grouped, like in like it's organized into things. So like that's just how it functions. Like that's how it has to be, I guess. I guess there's not as much unification. Well, there's unification within the group, but then they're separate from like all the other groups.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I know what you're saying. Honestly, I have absolutely no perspective on like what it's like to be a modern high schooler, but I can only assume that it's so much worse than it was for us. Like, and that probably definitely sounds like me being a boomer saying that, but like I think about how I was in high school and just like even the things that I posted on Facebook that I would never say now, and obviously they're not anything like that would get me canceled. Like they're not like racist or homophobic or anything, but it's just like just ignorance, like just not knowing anything about the world and just saying some shit because you have a little box in front of you that says what's on your mind and you just type into it.
Trust me, I know all about that little box. I think some of my Facebook friends might know all too well.
I can't even imagine what it's like now, where that sort of level of clickiness and that social layer of clickiness and people grouping and people and literally like that translating to the digital world where all those same people are all on their phones too, and they're all connected on the internet as well, but everyone's also like online portraying a different version of themselves that they are in real life. Like, that shit, I have no perspective on it, but it kind of blows my mind to think about. I'd love to interview a high schooler on this podcast.
Dude, that'd be great. And guess what, guys? Not only would Chris and myself like to interview a high schooler on this podcast, but we'd really like to interview pretty much anyone. We're all about the artists and musicians scene because we are those ourselves. But we're really in the game of just sitting back, chatting it up about some real deep shit and kind of talking about life. And we're down to extend that invitation to whoever wants to come be on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, if we're switching gears to the call to action, definitely check us out. This podcast is for the people. I mean, we're going to be going more in depth into our own individual works as artists, but the entire platform is to give every artist a voice and every artist to be able to share their perspective with the world, because I really think that you learn the most from people that do shit completely different than you. I mean, I definitely think like collaboration is key. But at the end of the day, you know, like, if I have somebody that does something completely different than me or works in a completely different style than me and appreciates what I do and they tell me how much it means to them, then that's so much cooler than somebody doing exactly what I do saying, oh, you man, your shit looks cool, because no shit, you think it looks cool.
Hell yeah.
But so yeah, I mean, and that's, I think I'm very blessed in that sense, and you know, that's sort of like what it comes back to when we talk about giving the real you out to the world and not being afraid to put all of your weird quirks out there and not just pigeonholing yourself to a certain image or a certain aesthetic online, because yeah, you'll have an easier time clicking with people on a service level because of like what you look like if you do that. But I think at the end of the day, if you're giving everyone the full you, you're gonna scare some people away, but like you said, the people that stick around, they're gonna want to invest in you further.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't think we have an email set up for this podcast yet, but if you want to hit me up on my DMs, Instagram at axom.art, ACSOM.ART, and Paddy Stax at PADDYSTAX_.
Everyone's an artist. We just got different artistries. The name is Paddy Stax. Yo, homies, come and follow me. Peace out, homies. Paddy Stax, Chris Mosca, signing off for the first episode of
Digital Stax.
Digital Stax.
Hellscape Digital, ex Paddy Stax, ex whoever else wants to be on this podcast.
We doing it, cuz. Alright, peace out, homies and homegirls.